Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are here to review a game. Doing the reviews.
Two weeks in a row?
Like 3 weeks in a row.
3 weeks in a row of reviews?
No, it's by definition 2 weeks in a row
because this is 112.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I got for trusting Adrian's words out of his mouth.
I know.
That's what I get for speaking without thinking.
Time and time again, anytime we trust Adrian, that's the time when he fucks it up.
Correct. It's like Zach, when Zach gets you to do a move, and then it ends up really being a good move for Zach. Just completely betrays you.
Except that apparently me trusting you has it just hurts us at all.
It hurts everyone. It hurts even me.
Exactly. It hurts everybody. At least what I do helps somebody.
Anyhow, let's get into this review. This week, we are going to be reviewing Now Boarding. This is a 2017 release from designer Tim Fowers. Artist is Ryan Goldsberry. Published by Fowers Games. It plays 2 to 5 players and takes 30 to 60 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules breakdown for us?
Yes, I do. In Now Boarding, you are cooperatively running an airline and having it not fail miserably. Each round is split over 2 phases, maintenance and flight. During maintenance, you can discuss your plans and buy upgrades for your plane. During flight, you can fly around equal to your speed, pick up passengers if your airplane has room, and drop them off at their destination, or a different one if you couldn't be bothered to bring them all the way. Once the morning passenger deck empties, you move to afternoon, which means new weather and more passengers per turn. After each turn, passengers not in a plane will get anger tokens with the 4th cube, causing them to leave the board and go to the complaints pile. If you ever get 3 or more complaints, you lose. At the end of the game, for every 2 passengers that are left in your plane or on the board, one of them gets put to the complaints pile. And if you have less than 3 complaints, you win.
Yeah, that's Now Boarding. Before we move on to initial thoughts, just for full transparency, this wasn't given to us necessarily as a review copy specifically, but Tim did hook us up with this game, so we did not pay for it. Make of that what you will. It wasn't like a, hey, we want to review this. And it wasn't like a, hey, please review this. It was like, hey, here's a game.
Yeah.
So
it's like, hey, you want any games? And I was like, pretty much all my friends already own all your stuff because you're awesome. And he was like, well, this is new. Here.
Yeah, and there we go.
And there it is.
So not necessarily any implied tit for tat or anything, but we didn't pay for it. If you think that might make us super biased, that Tim trusts us enough to give us a game or that we take free games from Tim, then, you at least now know about that and be like, no, fuck this episode, turning it off.
Yeah.
Tim's just so nice, he just hands out games.
Yep.
Also, yes. He gave Paul a full copy of Burgle Bros and something else at HeavyCon. Just like, oh yeah, just take this.
Yeah. Tim's a very nice man.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, now we can move on to initial thoughts. Jeff, what were your initial thoughts going into Now Boarding?
So my initial thoughts were like, hey, I'm at Gen Con and that guy looks like he's a board game designer and he's sitting in the booth where all the Burgle Bros and stuff is. He's got a leather hat on. He's probably Tim Fowers. I'm going to go say hi because I know Adrian and Paul had met him at HeavyCon and just introduced myself. And then we chit-chatted for a while. And then he handed me a copy of Now Boarding.
Right on. Zach, what about you? What were your initial thoughts going into it?
I seem to remember us covering this in Kickstarter way back when, but I'm assuming this was right around me not having a job or anything like that, so I wasn't really looking at anything. But I remember Jeff being like, here, and throwing the game to me after we played Sabotage. And it was like, here, play this. And so I was like, okay. And I really had no expectations going into it because I'd pretty much forgotten about it at that point. But I was like, ooh, it's so much so that a lot of us, when we were reading the rules, were like, oh wait, this is cooperative. So
yes.
we all went into the game with fresh eyes.
Indeed. Yeah, it was pretty much a similar boat. The guys came back from Gen Con with this, and I vaguely remember talking about it, but same thing, I didn't know until I want to say halfway into the teach. I was like, wait, is this a cooperative game? Oh, now it makes so much more sense, everything you were just telling me. but I've really liked pretty much everything I've ever played from Tim. So I had some pretty solid expectations going in that it'd be a fun little game about flying airplanes and moving passengers. Right on. I think that brings us over to components. So not a ton of components. A pretty small game, like most of Tim's games are.
The board itself is smaller than you'd expect, but it everything is laid out where it needs to be.
Yep.
It folds well into the box.
It folds well. Yeah, it is a
double folded.
Yeah,
right?
it's double folded in such a way. Like, it is a small box that you're getting a smaller box, and then it's like, oh, there's a board, and you fold out, and you're like, oh, okay, that's good.
Double-sided board for player count. Two to 3 and 4 and 5.
Yeah,
correct.
Because if you don't have enough players, then Godzilla is like, fuck Seattle.
Yeah. Then otherwise, there's a bunch of cardboard tokens for the various pieces of the planes that you're going to be building.
Which you're actually making, your player board is just a plane that you have.
Yes. Modular.
Yeah, it's modular. So, not only is it easy to put up, you don't have to have a big board in the actual game box, which is always nice. But at the end of the game, you see the progress you've made because you have a big ass fucking plane compared to your small little one you started off with.
Different line colors and things on it. All the cardboard is actually real nice as well. Standard thick cardboard.
Yep. And then your little meeple that goes around the map is just a plane.
It's an airplane.
Yeah.
All the passenger cards are like square cards.
Yep.
Good luck sleeving these if you really want to.
Which you can, but yeah, it is annoying to shuffle those, but it's understandable that they wanted to.
They want to fit in the airplane.
They actually want to fit in the airplane, and so it makes sense.
You don't want card-sized airplane windows.
No.
That'd be like a lot of wasted space,
It would.
really.
It would be.
Oh, yeah.
I feel the cards have as much information as they need, and then that's it.
Where they're going, how much you get for getting them there, and where they were from.
Yeah, and then an art of the person, which I feel...
It's the same person.
It's the same person. It's the same person... Depending on where they're going.
So everybody in Chicago is one person.
Everyone going to Chicago.
Everybody going to Chicago.
Yeah. So it's like, no matter where that old lady is at, you know that she is going to Chicago.
Yes. And then every card has where they start on the back of it.
Yes.
And when you start around, it flips.
Yeah.
There's the weather tokens. Very easy to tell what those are. The weather deck.
Yep.
The plane engines are double-sided from 1 to 2, which is nice. Same with all the different line colors.
Yeah.
The board, we haven't talked more about it besides Godzilla destroys Seattle or not, but I really, really like the board.
I would agree with that too.
It's the United States, the lower 48, and then all the various lines and stuff between the cities, but they all have that colorful flourish that all of his games do, where it's like, hey, there's Mount Rushmore. Hey, there's a thing of cheese. That's clearly Wisconsin. Sometimes there's just killer whales.
Yeah.
Or the Godzilla that destroys Seattle is shown on the board.
Yeah. So the background on the board is nice, but I also think the board, the part you actually play on is laid out really nice too.
I like minor detail that the traffic control towers are all the actual traffic control towers, except I hate how basic Denver's traffic control tower looks, considering how cool our airport is. I really wish that it had the cool wavy airport. I wish you'd been like, that's a cooler feature for Denver than just their generic air traffic control tower.
O'Hare's is pretty lame too.
But. Yeah. It's also, for the longest time, multiple people have called O'Hare's Orlando because it's ORD, which apparently is because it was Orchard Field before it was O'Hare, and they were like, I don't feel like changing it.
Nah.
But there's a nice...
And CIA was already taken.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There is a line going from whichever airport you're referring to the edge of the board, and so that's where you put the cards. So the cards don't clutter up the map at all.
No, they all go around the edge of the board, which makes it take up a little bit more table presence than the board itself indicates, but not too much.
No. And just as long as you always remember to be you see a pile of cards to connect the dotted line and where it goes, it is fairly easy to see.
Yes.
And then there are 2 types of routes in this game, which they show on there as dotted lines, and then the colored, instead of just regular pips, they're colored pips that have the symbol of whatever specific route they are. And they use different colors and symbols, which is always really good for colorblind people or anything like that.
Correct.
And then there's the pre-flight and upgrades, maintenance
Yeah.
board.
Which could be better because one, there is a mistake on there. So for 3 players in the afternoon, you're only supposed to put 15 cards instead of 18. Because if you put 18, you will run out of cards before you finish building the deck.
Yes.
It's supposed to be 10, 15, 20, 30, not 10, 18, 20, 30.
But he has acknowledged that, and he's just like, yeah, it's just supposed to be 15, 18, and the next printing will have that fixed. So that's easy enough. It is a little annoying that you can't see on the the pre-flight side has how many of each card you're supposed to pull each round, which goes up. It's
like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4.
Exactly.
3, 4, 5.
It is. It's easy enough to remember that whatever your initial one is, you do one more, and then in evening you do one more after that. But it would be nice to always. It would be nice just for clarification to have that on there.
You just have to remember this simple math. In the morning, it's players minus 1.
Yes.
In the afternoon, it's players, and then in evening, it's players plus 1.
Hey Jeff, are you looking at that BGG updated?
It is nice.
Yes. There's a BGG updated sheet for that is really good at that. So if that frustrates you, you can get that, and then it tells you everything you need to know on one sheet, which is good.
Yeah, and I think it has it adjusted the price of things a little bit, I think.
For 2 players.
Yeah, for 2 players.
Yeah. I would say one last thing for components is we've played this game, I want to say 5 or 6 times now, and the cards are starting to, the blue is starting to wear off a little bit.
Yeah, you can definitely already see some wear on the little square tiles, which is surprising because you can't really give them a riffle shuffle. They're too small and the decks are too thick.
But it's just because you're putting them on, well, not just shuffling, but you're just putting them on the table, grabbing them, putting them on your board. You're not holding them in your hand or anything.
They're moving around a lot.
There's friction going on between it and a surface.
We should mention this also comes with 2 sand timers.
Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah. 15 and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
15 and 30 seconds.
That would be
15 and 30 seconds. You have so much time to do what you want to do.
We have to wait until it's out before we can start our next round.
But those are easy enough to figure out just because one has less sand than the other. I haven't timed them to see how accurate they are, but I'm just going to assume that they're close enough.
That's always the best bet. Just assume.
Yeah.
Nothing ever goes wrong.
No. But the 15-second one is for 2 to 3 players, and the 30-second one is for 4 to 5 players.
Yeah. I think that's everything for components. Aside from the hardware issue and the misprint, I don't think there's really any issues. All pretty good.
Yes.
So let's move over to rules and rules explanation. So the rule book, I think, is pretty good. I do wish it did a little bit better job. We kind of ran into this over multiple plays where different people reading the rule book were like, wait, is this, where do things like this fall? Originally, one of the things you taught, Zach, was that you had to do all of your upgrades. You had to buy all your upgrades before new passengers came out onto the board. But reading through the rule book, it kind of makes it seem like you could do upgrades at any point during the maintenance phase, which the maintenance phase is the entire time between when the flight phase ends and when the flight phase begins. You're either in the flight phase, which is the time phase of moving shit around on the board, or you're in the maintenance phase, which is the buy upgrades, do upgrades, all of the above. So I do wish the rule book was a little bit better laid out in that regard. But overall, I think it does a good job of explaining what each of the different steps are, how you do them. There's no real ambiguity for specific things.
No.
It's clear there's that misprint on the sheet that we talked about there in components. That kind of causes a problem when you're trying to figure out how many to put in the piles. But then the rest of it's really easy, how many you actually turn out each turn.
I'd say one thing you always have to keep an eye out for is not really, it's a rules thing, but it's you're dealing out cards, but you have to remember to deal them face down versus face up, Adrian.
This wouldn't even be a thing we mentioned if we hadn't played one last time before we started, and I was in charge of the deck, and I kept doing it like a deck of cards where you take the top card and then flip it over to show what it is. It's oh, all right, so this first card is Chicago. I'm going to move it over here to Chicago and reveal that he's going to Miami.
And you're no.
Oh, shit,
no.
Shuffle him back in, back in. Let's do this again. I only did it 3 times in the entire game.
It should have been one round, and you were I could forgive one round of it. Just it's like in Hanabi. Every once in a while, you just grab a card, look. Oh, god damn it! But you just keep doing it, and then it's your problem.
No, it's 3rd time's a charm. You do it 3 times to get charmed.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's the reason.
That's what that saying means.
Yeah, so just don't do that. Don't flip the cards when you're delivering the passengers.
Yeah.
To the different cities.
But yeah, I think the only like sort of confusing things are the fact that anything that isn't specifically the flight phase is the maintenance phase.
Yes.
Where maintenance phase like feels like it should be the end of a round, but then part of the maintenance phase is sort of the beginning of the round too.
Correct.
So there's a little bit there, and you know, that one card thing, and I feel like that's really about it's pretty self-explanatory outside of that.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently some people have thought. Now, just for clarification, when your speed on your plane is 3, that means you move 3 pips, not 3 airports.
Oh my
some people,
God.
Yeah, some people apparently got that wrong.
Jesus.
Yeah. This
game is too easy. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, pretty much it was stuff like that. But I think it's the same thing that, like for Terraforming Mars first mentioned, that some people thought it was you had 2 actions per generation.
I do remember that as well.
So it's one thing that a lot of people are like, no, this obviously means that, but for how, because we've all done things where we read rules wrong, and we read rules wrong, and then we just assume something, like in our Game of Thrones. It's just, I do all of my actions, so you have a possibility of doing none of yours.
Players resolve actions in turn order. Oh, clearly that means that in turn order, everybody resolves all of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just want to put it out there. It just means the pips on the board. That's what your speed is.
Yeah.
And so that's why the weather tokens, those
are good or bad because they remove or add extra pips.
Yeah, you put it on top of one pip and it either gets rid of it or it has 2 on it. Yeah. So that is also, I feel really clear in terms of what you have to do.
Yeah, because if you're like, and I feel like that would be a problem that would correct itself as soon as you put out the weather tokens. You're like, well, the only reason that that would affect the game is if I had to count individual pips, not cities. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, even that, somebody thought that Hanabi was competitive. So there's just a disconnect that no matter what you do, you're just like, what are you doing?
Yes.
So
assuming makes an ass out of you and almost always me.
Yeah.
The only other area where I can think where things might get confusing, the VIPs, it's a variant that you can add in. And like just one example that came up specifically in our most recent game was there's a character who's nervous. And it says on the nervous character that he cannot fly through storm or through weather.
Yeah. Well, okay, so for VIPs, it's an extra variant that you can add that
basically certain passengers have special needs that make them more difficult.
Yes.
Like can't fly alone or can only fly alone or etc.
Right. And so you can decide on a turn when to use them, and then whatever the last passenger you draw, they get that VIP status, and so they get the condition. The VIPs don't have their own destinations like the cards itself. They just attach to a passenger.
Yes.
So making sure to remember which passenger it is.
Which card, so you don't accidentally mix that up is very important.
Yeah.
But with that storm guy, like that includes the tailwind that gets you there faster. Like there's a little bit of a moment. It was very brief because the rules they're clearly storm card or weather cards.
Weather cards.
And he says cannot fly through weather. It was like, really? Is that like a misprint? Did it mean to say he can't fly through storms? Like, because a nice tailwind should be fine. Well, apparently on BGG, people say just imagine that nice tailwind, it gives you some turbulence.
Yeah.
But he don't like turbulence.
He's too nervous.
Too nervous.
I also just...
But you have to get to JFK. There's only 2 ways to get to JFK, and both of them have weather on them.
Well, yeah,
You're not getting to JFK with that passenger for a while.
that passenger, congratulations. You don't get there in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You have to wait till evening. I also just love another little fun thematic quirk in my brain with these passengers is I remember all the times I get to, as I'm boarding a plane, be like, I am a very nervous flyer. We can't go through weather. We cannot. If we go through weather, I am going to complain.
Absolutely,
so
sir.
hard. And they were like, yeah, you know what? We'll fly all around the country waiting for the weather over JFK to clear.
Yeah. You're just going to be along for the ride until, the weather clears.
Right, yeah.
We're going to get 6 different airports and just leave you until another plane picks you up.
Yeah. I think the only the rules things for them, it's just very specific ones do certain things, and you just have to keep, that adds just a a little unique rule
Yeah.
for each one of those ones, so you just have to pay attention
And
to that.
and with the exception of that one, which is actually self-explanatory, like you just the tailwind might not make sense until you think of it like turbulence or whatever, but it is another one. They're all exactly what they say on the card is exactly what they do.
Yeah.
So there's no ambiguity there. Just don't get the nervous guy and be like, is that right? Yes,
Right.
it's right. You can't go through any kind of weather,
Nope.
even good weather.
Just meh. He is just a meh person. All right.
He does not want to get there faster,
Yeah.
no matter what. So,
I think that's it for it.
yeah, I think that's.
There was a little hook with the speed and like seat tokens.
Oh, right. Yes.
You
Oh,
buy
good
them,
call.
and then once you use them, they go back to the pool.
Mhm.
You don't have to keep the seat token with you if you've used it to pick up an extra person. It
Right.
will then go back to the pool.
Which is another thing where the rules stated that it's just you assume, oh, I'm using this token to get another seat. Obviously,
it has to stay
it
with
has to stay
It-
with me.
The
And
token
they've-
denotes the extra seat, which
Yeah.
is not true. That's
No.
just a stupid assumption.
No,
you
it's a
They have clearly already strapped
potential.
him.
You're buying the potential for a seat.
Yeah.
And then you use it. It's the Schrodinger seat. It's
Yes.
They have clearly strapped him to the side of the airplane
Yeah,
already.
that's fine.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
that you've paid money for the liability waiver for one passenger
Yeah.
to go in the cargo hold.
Yes. Yeah. Now you gotta figure out that passenger.
Whether
Yeah.
they like it or not, it's like, sorry, this is your spot.
Do you want another anger cube? I don't think so.
They got
should
to
be-
where they're going.
There should be a claustrophobic VIP that cannot use the jump seat.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't
Well,
know.
I feel like that'd be easy enough to be like, well, you're not. You got a regular seat. Now this guy who's been on this plane forever is like, well, you're in the cargo hold now.
Sure, I know we've just landed in Atlanta. You got picked up in LA. You're trying to get to San
Yeah.
Francisco,
Okay.
but we need you to move to
Yeah.
the cargo hold.
All right, let's go ahead and go into gameplay so we can actually talk about that.
Yes. All right. Moving on into gameplay. Gameplay time.
All right. The theme on this works well, but it also like so many things do not make sense.
No, and this was the thing that like surprised me. It's why initially I was like halfway through the rules, like, wait, is this cooperative?
Mhm.
Because ostensibly you are all almost different airlines. Like you have
Well,
different
it's-
routes that only you can fly.
But it's like you're different partners of an air, like because there's like
which happens.
yes, yeah, because
but not often.
yes. There's never like, sorry, you can't fly this way. Only this person can fly this way.
There is exactly one airline that can fly from Denver to Atlanta.
Yeah, and if you
it
want-
is not you.
It is not you. If you want to be you, you're gonna have to pay for it.
You're gonna have to pay to paint that airline
Yeah.
stripe on your plane.
Exactly. Yeah. They just have machine guns pointed towards the sky. Somebody takes the wrong one.
Anti-aircraft batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you fly out of that airport going the wrong way, they're going to shoot you down.
Airspace in America is strictly controlled.
Yes.
Air traffic control. Duh.
So
And then you also have things like you have VIPs. There's a VIP that's a minor. They can't fly alone. It doesn't matter who else they're flying with, just not by themselves.
They're a random stranger.
Just look after this kid.
Or like, well, there's
it's like
the convict VIP. You can have 3 spots, but he takes up 2 of them.
Yeah.
And then the miner's also there. So clearly he's with like the air marshal or whatever, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean that one makes a little sense. The air marshal takes up a seat on that ticket.
That one, yeah, that one.
Who watches the kid?
The
air marshal or the
air
convict?
marshal? It's
The
gotta
air
be the
mar-
air marshal. The kid one's
Unless
great.
he's going to the bathroom. And then it's just the kid.
Here, kid. Here's this gun. Watch this criminal.
If he moves, shoot him.
Shoot him.
Hey, criminal, watch this kid. Make sure he doesn't shoot anyone but you.
Yeah.
None of this has anything to do with gameplay.
No.
But it's the absurdity. Like
Yes.
there is a little bit of absurdity in the gameplay, in the theme and the way it plays out. That I think it's what makes this work.
Yes.
Because it is lighthearted and silly, and you end up laughing about stupid things like this.
Well, it's just like if I'm taking somebody from Miami to JFK, but because of people's anger out in fucking Seattle, I'm like, all right, I know you're going to JFK. I have to make a quick stop in Seattle. Then I might just drop you off in Denver while I go deal with something else. Someone else
Denver
might pick you up.
Someone's going to be by.
And so whenever a passenger isn't on a plane at the end of the round, they're going to get an anger token. But as soon as you pick them up, they're all
with the exception of one VIP who that fucker holds a grudge.
yeah.
But yes, everybody else that just the anger mysteriously vanishes. Because, every time I've tried to fly from Denver to New York and I get sent to Seattle, I'm just like, hey, I'm on a plane.
And then just dropped off.
Yeah. But then you start to get mad again, but then a plane's like, all right, I'll pick you up. I'll take you to LAX. How about that? Leave you there for a couple times. Because you could literally pick somebody up at the start. The first person you pick up, you could drop that. You could take them cross country anywhere. You could be like, I want this person to visit every airport. And as long as you pick them up within 4 turns, apparently that they're like, okay, fine. And yeah, I'm back in an airplane. No, I'm going west again. No.
The one thing that, the time frames seem exaggerated. Like, you're like, oh, you could hit everything, which is where some of, again, the absurdity and abstractness comes into play. But
also
because this is one day.
Yeah.
So all of these passengers are making their trips in a day. And honestly, most of the time I fly, as long as I get to where the fuck I'm going in a day, I don't get too upset.
That's true. Looking in that regard, yes, that's. But also, then in that frame, the time frame, these planes
does not make sense. They're going
ridiculous amount of speed.
Yeah,
I've got 4 speed.
Oh
That should get me halfway across the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and a third of the morning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you start. Their very base speed is 3, which is enough to go San Francisco to LA 20 times.
Yeah. And then also halfway through the turn in the maintenance phase, you're flying halfway between Seattle and JFK. You're like, sweet, I've got a new engine now. I can go faster. Let's pump.
Someone just came by and bolted it on in mid-flight. It's
there's something on the wing.
I would say the scarier one is the one where well, we've got new seats now.
The plane just stretches. It's airplane the game. Just. And even one of the first times I played it, we were playing with Wes, and he did his he went Jackson Pollock with his airplane.
Yeah,
and it just kept reminding me of the cover of the movie Airplane with the airplane tied in a knot.
Yeah,
all right, that's what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's one of the things I enjoy the most is just some of the ridiculous crap that you can have happen in the game.
Yeah, and you don't get so tied up in the absurdity as we are right now while you're playing, because you're it's a tight game. You're really trying to oh shit, this guy's gonna go file a complaint. We need to get him done. We need to do this. But there's enough of it where it's all right, I just picked this guy up in Miami. I'm going to drop him in DFW. You're going to take him to Chicago. Then from Chicago, he's going to finally make his destination in JFK in New York. And that's just what happens.
Yeah. Now, I do want to clarify that statement. After a third of the game, it starts to get tighter. The first third of the game, morning in particular.
Oh, yeah, you're
it is super easy. It is the amount of, like you said, P -1. The amount of players -1, so it is really easy to just be okay, a couple people are coming, that's fine, it's easy enough to manage. Once you get to, if you're playing 3 players, 3 or then 4, then it starts to, you're oh, this is just frustrating.
Yeah. The only thing I've seen come up in early game, like you said, it is usually really easy. You might, depending on where people come out, one person might be shouldering more of the load. If you're one of the West Coast airlines and most of that first, 8 or 10 passengers are all East Coasters, even if they're coming west, you still don't have anything to do necessarily early. Everybody does start with 1 passenger in their home airport, so everybody has 1 person to move at the start.
Yeah,
but there's times where you move that 1 person, maybe you're starting off in Seattle in a 5-player game. And you're
dropping somebody at San Francisco
or LA, and
then all the other ones are on the other side, and they want to go to people on the other side, and you're just well, I'll just
yeah. And then you feel the dread inside because everybody else is making the money and upgrading, and then in the late and mid game, all the passengers are going to shift to your side with your tiny little slow plane.
Yes,
and you got to keep up somehow.
Yeah, but also a little bit of absurdity too. You couldn't just be well, I don't have any passengers. I'm just going to fly around for a bit. Just try and wait for something to do.
Try and get my plane in the most opportune area to pick something up.
Yeah. And then that's another thing, too. When new passengers come out, you see where you're picking them up. You don't know where they're going, which you
Until
wouldn't
the
pick
timer
up-
starts.
Yeah, you wouldn't be like, all right, let's go. Flip them over. All right, where are you going, buddy? Let me just take you wherever, like a taxi.
Well, to be fair, they don't get on the plane
I know.
until you know where they're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely, I love that. Like when you're
better
trying
than-
to plan, you're like, well, we've got a customer sitting in Denver. They haven't bought their ticket yet. We don't know where they're going, but somebody better go to Denver just in case.
Yeah. Yep.
And then just be ready to go.
We'll
somewhere.
radio you as soon as it starts.
Yeah.
They're going to Seattle. They're going to Seattle.
It's like, I'm going through Denver. I'll see. If it's convenient, I'll pick them up. Otherwise,
They'll just
it's
sit there
really more like this could almost work better as a hitchhiker game where you really have more leniency in who you're picking up and
But
who you're not.
Then you got to worry about some sort of
Some
murder
stab it, yeah.
mechanic, like hobo murders.
Yeah, then there might be some elimination in the game, and you're like, and all right, this guy killed me. Cool, I'm just going to do something else.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's one whole less car on the board.
Yeah.
So the deck is totally random.
Mhm.
Yes.
So obviously the thing we were saying about how East, sometimes you get all East cards. That's something that can happen because it's cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, the value of the passengers is random as well.
Yeah,
it is sort of
Well,
tied to where
distance.
they're going.
like
yeah.
like an SFO to LA, San Francisco to LA
Is
like,
$1.
It's
Yeah.
2 stops. It's
Yeah.
a middle stop and then the city.
And if you get a tailwind, it is literally 1 pip away.
Yeah.
And so those are like $1.
Mhm.
Whereas like an
Same with
LA
Miami
to
to-
New York
Yeah.
is like a 4 or 5.
Yes.
But you won't know that until they flip over.
True.
Exactly.
True,
yes.
true.
And so if you are looking for money because you're like, I need to do this, and then you flip over a card and you're like, all right, well, I literally can't bring this person here, so I need to drop it off to somebody else, and then they do it. And what sucks is that you bring him 70% of the way, and then Jeff brings in the last third. Jeff gets all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that can happen with the big ticket ones
Yes,
too.
it can.
Oh, I just took this guy from New York to San Francisco. You take him from San Francisco to
Yeah.
LA and you get all the money?
well, and you're hoping that it's both people are doing this,
Mhm.
so your people are bringing it to the center, and then you're going back to where you were before, and then dropping off and getting it. But sometimes
Because you always want those more efficient routes in the area
Yeah.
you started.
But if you don't have the money for it, or if you don't have the right cards for it, it can screw you in that regard.
Yeah. And there comes different points in the game where like just because of the way it ebbs and flows in certain areas, sometimes everybody will be moving west. And so you might be able to be on the West Coast and just do some quick like, oh, I meet halfway and grab this one because you don't have quite enough room or this, and the whole like trying to manage anger levels.
Yeah.
Like, shit, I've got an LA, but there's a 3-star in Denver or 3 anger in Denver. I'll stop in Denver. I'll leave LA in Denver, and then I'll pick up San Francisco with 3 stars and keep going to San Francisco. You leave LA, hit Denver, come back to LA.
Yeah.
Like just do these weird little. So so much of this.
That's another thing. You're like, all right, I know we're going to LA. Look, I have to drop you in Denver to take someone from Denver to San Francisco. Then I'll come back for you, and then we can go there.
To LA, yeah, because there's just not enough room.
That's not enough room.
No, I only got 2 seats.
In my airline,
Yeah.
my airline plane.
This is like post-apocalypse. There's not many people left.
And the planes are small.
I'm sure
Godzilla has-
there is all sorts of gas rationing
Well, no,
that is
no,
underneath the game.
No, So Jeff just cracked the code. It makes so much sense. This is post-apocalypse. There's Godzilla has wiped out Seattle. Everybody is flying like fighter jets. So that's why they're so fast. And there's like the pilot and the co-pilot seat. And maybe you could cram one more person into like a missile hold. And then eventually you get enough money and now you're flying like a B-52 or something that maybe has a couple seats
Yeah.
extra.
That's why there's a Jaws and a Godzilla.
Yep,
The Jaws apocalypse happened.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd be
Sharknado.
fine if you were a plane and it was a shark-related apocalypse.
Yeah. But
There have been 7 Sharknado. They made it to fucking space. You think a plane is safe? Sharks
I guarantee
made it
there's
to
at least
space.
5 destroyed aircraft due to shark attack in those movies.
At least.
At least. Shut down all air traffic. The sharks are in the clouds.
But then you can just fly over the clouds.
If only you could do that in this game.
Yeah.
I could have dropped off that panicky passenger in New York.
So speaking of that guy, you can, because how the weather comes out is random. It's random, but it's also there's a weather deck. and it's for each of the different
and then
connections.
there's one for four or five player
Yes.
as well. That you add more cards.
But
Yeah.
if you put a weather in Atlanta to Denver, you're not going to put in. And
There will never be.
There will
another
never be that again. So it's not like that's always going to happen. It is a deck, so it's going to
Yeah. So the panicked person is never boxed out entirely,
Yeah.
unless you get really unlucky. I guess if you had him as the evening,
an evening, and they need to go JFK, and both routes are covered. You're like, well, this guy isn't going. Sorry, dude.
which then you
You're
just ditch him.
Grow a backbone.
Grow a backbone in Atlanta here, where you're going to be sitting for
Yeah.
the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But
This is your life now.
Yeah.
But that brings up a good point, because that is an area like it would be very rare, and he is the only passenger that can really be blocked out of an airport. And I think it's like that airport. I think New York is maybe Seattle in a 5-player game are the only
I
airports.
mean,
that only
Miami-
have-
Seattle has 4 different
Miami
routes.
has 3 coming in of it.
But,
Yes.
but even still,
It can only happen in a 2 or 3 player game because every airport will have at least 3 exits.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
all 3
No.
like there are 6 tokens
Yeah,
that
I
you're
guess,
playing.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
see what you're saying.
Anywhere there could be one where they get blocked out. It's just it comes down to you getting that card while also getting those weather cards that blocks that one particular
Yeah.
spot.
And it would have to happen all of it in the evening phase.
Yeah.
Which is all of that very unlikely.
Mhm.
I'm
even then
curious what the odds of that actually would
Yeah.
come out to
Not-
be.
not
I'm not
great.
going to do it. Too many variables.
Even then, it's not the end of the world
Yeah.
because people can just be not delivered.
Well, so the worst thing for that would be the VIPs. They immediately always count as one disgruntled if they don't make it to their destination.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, anyone who didn't make it to their destination regular, it's 1 for every 2 gets moved to disgruntled. If there are ever 3 disgruntled, you lose.
So
Yeah.
So if that happened and you did get boxed out with a VIP,
yeah.
you immediately are in a position where at the end of the game, you cannot have more than 3 people who did not make it to their destination.
But like we said, that's a variant. You don't have to play with them.
I think you should.
I think you should, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like an intro game, you don't have to play with them.
I probably wouldn't for an intro. Like, I think this is one of the few variants that is actually a variant that's good for once you've played a time or 2.
There is also a variant where you can share money with people.
And you can, I was reading about that. You can do it during
Both phases.
both phases.
As long as you're
same
in the
place.
same airport, not
Yes.
the same space. You have to
Okay.
be in an airport.
Yeah. You're not just throwing
Money across.
money.
They didn't abstract it that much.
Okay. Although still, it's like you're both at the same thing, and you're just hanging out of your plane. You just throw your money to the other plane.
Yeah, and then
Here.
they shoot off back into
yeah,
the air.
Yeah.
You run into the terminal and they just swap cash, and then you run that cash to the plane store.
Through the
Yeah.
they quickly bolt on a new engine.
Yep.
Yeah. So
We
It's a
we never
little
played
absurd.
we never played with the money handoff.
now, I meant
No.
to do it in this most recent game, but then I forgot to
But we-
super say it at the start of it.
And then, honestly, we were doing great. These were the biggest planes we've ever built on that one. So
Yeah, we crushed it.
We
It was
did.
the only time we had one person who didn't get delivered at the very end of the game.
so we had 0 complaints.
0 complaints, which I have. So speaking for gameplay, for difficulty, for an idea,
Yeah.
I have played now at every player count. I've
Same
played
here.
several games.
I have
lost 1 game, and it was Zach and I playing a 2-player game where we didn't realize, because we didn't double check the rules.
yeah.
A key change to set up for 2 players is that everybody gets their like starter plane route, and you get to pick one other route for free as
Yeah.
an add-on.
So you
We
played
made
super
it
hard mode.
so
Oh,
hard.
damn.
And even with that,
We lost by like 2 passengers.
we had 7 passengers
Wow.
left.
And one of them was because we got a fucking asshole.
Oh.
Who was it?
So okay, another thing that I can't tell in the rules or not.
The
When
rules
you
are pretty vague
about
on this regard.
When you get a VIP, you attach it to a passenger. It doesn't say whether or not that card gets flipped up or it stays flipped down until you flip the other passenger up.
Yeah, so we've made it an official house rule.
Because literally,
You know
yeah.
what the VIP is, even if you don't know where they're going.
Yeah, 'cause
because you know that guy is fucking scared. We don't
Yeah.
know where he's scared to go to,
Yeah.
but he's scared.
because the thing that happened with us was we're like, all right, here's a VIP. I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna go to this place, pick him up, and take him somewhere else. We flip over the card when the stand timer starts. It's a celebrity, and they can only fly somewhere if they're the only person on the entire plane.
Oh yeah, and this
And
was
and
the
this is when
very
we had-
end of the game when we had big planes and a bunch of
people.
passengers.
Yeah. That's probably the two people we had to drop off to pick that fucker up.
Yeah.
Was the two that caused us to lose.
Basically.
So we more than likely would have won had we had the right routes.
Oh, we definitely would have if we'd done routes right, because we were like, because we were mathing it out. Every time we came up like 1 or 2 stops short. If we had each had an extra route, we would have been able to make it work. I guarantee it.
So yeah, I would definitely agree. Even like honestly, I would say every game except for this last one we just played, the last couple round or the last round and the second to last round felt really stressful because you're like, all right, we just get one more round and then we have to get everything done. And so you're just like, all right, well, we have to figure out the best way to do it. But we've always been able to do that.
Yeah. And I feel like it's followed a weird curve.
Yeah.
Like you said, that we talked about earlier, that first third, you're like, especially if you're playing this for the first time, you're going to be like, oh, we got this is easy.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in this? And then it starts to ramp up. And then there's like a brief period towards the like end of the second third, start of the final third. That, if we're doing it like a movie, the first act is fucking easy. Second act, it ramps up. You hit like right at the start of the third act is like peak, like holy fuck. Then you start to resolve some things, you figure some shit out, and then it comes down to just like 1 or 2 passengers right there at the end. And I feel like for me, it's been roughly half and half, where some of them have come down to the last round, like we have to do this fucking perfect. Whereas a couple of them have been like 2 or 3 rounds prior to like, all right, there's one more set of passengers. Almost everybody's delivered. We'll see where they're going. As long as we can deliver like 2 or 3 of them, we'll be good. And then it works out. But it stays tense for a good chunk of that, like from like second and third of the game.
Yeah, I would say like 40% to like 90 to 100% of it is can be tense. 40 from 40% of the way through the game
to until 90 or 100,
or until 90 or 100%. It can be tense. Yeah, but it's that first third. You're just like, I don't want to say you feel bored. No, it's not that. It's just you're like, all right, this seems really easy.
No, you feel it tends to feel, even after I've played it multiple times and I know what's coming, I feel overconfident.
Yeah,
like we're crushing this. Bring out that VIP, like first deal out. Like we delivered all of our initial starting players. Like, bring out that VIP. All right, we got all those ones. Bring out that next VIP. Sweet, we're good. All right, we're into afternoon phase. Yeah, maybe wait on that VIP for a second. It's getting a little tight.
Yeah.
Ah, shit. None of the ones that came out work. Fuck. Shit.
Yeah.
All right, we're close enough. Shit, we got to do that VIP. All right, fine, do that VIP. Oh, God, no, not that VIP. And then you get towards the end and you're like, all right, you do this, 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 and this. I'm doing this, this, and this, and this. What are you doing? Okay, you're doing all those things. Cool. I think we have this.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, I do think that I feel like at the very least, there are parts, this game could be subject to quarterbacking.
Yes.
But
like all heavy cooperative games.
Heavy cooperative games. Well, at the very least, it does have a real-time element of, like, you're trying, like, you have to do these things, and so you can, you just be like, fuck what that guy said, I'm going to do this instead.
Well.
But I feel like, especially with planning, because when you and I played it, it took us like almost an hour and a half.
We spent so much time on those last 2 rounds. Like, is there any way we can do this? What if we do this? No, we're one
That's
short.
Because we were playing super fucking hard. That's why it took us so long. Because we're like, how do we do this?
So if you ever want the hardest possible option, play 2-player.
No extra route.
No extra route.
Yeah.
That's ultra hard mode. I don't know if it's even possible to win.
I mean, we might have won if we didn't get that celebrity.
True.
Imagine how fucking inflated our egos would have been if we found that out. If we had won that one, and then we're like, oh
God, right?
Yeah.
Especially with that dick hole right there at the end.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. You learn to hate VIPs.
Yeah.
I never want to be a VIP on an airline because I feel like I would just be flying and feel like everyone at the airline was just hating me because I'm some kind of important person.
We'll just hate you regular.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. You're not an airline, an entire fucking airline.
No, like, not yet.
You're one person.
All right. New life goals, Jeff. We need to become airline people, run the entire thing and be like, all right, Adrian, you're the VIP. And then just take you everywhere
the problem
except where you want to go.
Is you're still just one person. in the entire airline. You would have to actually have employees and things. Whereas in this game, you yourself are the entire airline. The gameplay itself doesn't really change much over the player counts.
No.
You're still doing the same
routes.
core things. It's what routes go where and how.
And then you have like when you go to 3 players, not only Seattle's not on the board, so you just take all those cards out.
And there are some route changes and stuff.
Yeah.
In general. On the board.
And then if you're playing with just 2 players, you take all the JFK cards out as well.
Yeah.
So
He didn't include like boards for every player count. So at the 2-player, you do ignore an additional entire city, which also happened in ours, where it was like, wait, you're flying to JFK? There shouldn't be a JFK in this game. We'll just see how that goes.
Which sucked though because we were heading that like.
I was already on my I was midway between like JFK.
Oh, there shouldn't be a Seattle in this game. You mean?
No, in the 2-player.
In 2-player, you also
You don't play with JFK.
So
either.
Seattle's not on the board because it's not on that side. But in a 2-player game, you also leave out all of the JFK cards.
I see. Okay.
Because at that point, all those flyover states, you fly to them. It's Seattle and New York. They get fucked.
They get fucked. Yeah.
Game.
Well, in 2-player, you're just doing regional. You're just a regional.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I can't wait for the expansion that adds Alaska and Hawaii that just has a fucking board 15 pips long just to get them there.
What's the longest route on a 4 or 5-player board? Is it 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including the cities?
Including the city. So it would be 4 in the air and then 1 to the airport.
Okay. I feel like you could do Alaska and Hawaii at like 6. But the passengers would have to be worth a shit ton of money. And you couldn't have many of them.
But I also like you just be like, all right, guys, I'm heading to Alaska, so
see ya.
Good luck with fucking everything else. Yeah. I'm gonna be busy.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd balance that because you'd almost want it to be a late game one, so you could actually have engine power to get there and back in a reasonable amount of time. You wouldn't want to take 3 turns dropping 1 person in Alaska.
Maybe it's a separate mini plane that you have that just sends the one guy.
Or just do international flights. All right, I'm going to fly to Australia. That's my one thing I'm doing this entire game.
So I want the sequel, like Now Boarding 2 Global or something. Like pips are adjusted.
Global panic.
Pips are adjusted.
No, that's what would happen.
Yeah.
I have 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Oh, God. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up gameplay. Let's move on into some final thoughts.
Did we ever really specifically talk about how the timer really affected things?
It
didn't seem.
Okay.
You have enough time to where you can plan things out. Do you know where like everyone knows exactly what they're doing because you've pointed everything out? Like I'm dropping this there, that there. We only came in a couple times.
I feel like you feel the 15-second one a lot more than you do the 30-second.
3 and 2 players is where you feel it.
Well, and even then, I would say 3 players is the hardest in terms of that time limit.
You have a lot of arms trying to reach parts of the board,
and especially because you can chain things in this game. It's like, all right, I'm going to go here, drop this person off,
making your connections on time,
and then picking somebody else up, and then going to here, dropping somebody off, so Jeff can pick it up, and then head out this way and drop off somebody for Adrian, and then they can go do something. And so there's a lot of things that have to happen before, like Adrian can go do something. And so with the 15 seconds, you can feel that. But I feel like I never really noticed it in the 30.
The 15 at the 3-player came out a couple times. Where it was like, nope, time's up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, shit, I could have moved 1 space further if I'd been just a little quicker.
Exactly.
But it was never like game breakingly.
I do like that it's there just so someone can't be like, actually, you know what? I'm going to go this way instead. Yeah. So it's like you have to figure that out, and then
really to counter Adrian.
to counter what we were talking about earlier with alpha players, like because there's a limit to how much you can alpha game this. There's a little bit in that prep phase, but like Zach said, if you don't want to do what the alpha gamer is saying, do something else and be like, no, your plan was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, you delivered a passenger there you thought I was going to pick up? Well, maybe don't tell me what to do, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Wait till I agree to it, dick.
Yep, that's a great way to
play a cooperative game.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'm going to do what I want.
So many pandemics have been cured
do you see
that way.
Your name on this plane? No. So fuck off.
Now gameplay is complete.
Yes.
Okay. So let's jump into final thoughts. I'll start. I really like Now Boarding. I think it's a really fun, pretty light to medium cooperative game. It's got an interesting theme that is abstracted enough to be absurd in a hilarious way, especially when you talk about them after the fact. Like, we haven't laughed as much playing the game as we laughed about talking, because when you talk about games you've had, all of a sudden so much of that stuff just coalesces when you think about, like, the guy who's too afraid to fly through storms to make it to New York that afternoon, so you drop him in 3 different airports and then take him there that evening.
Yep.
And when you really think about how absurd some of that is, it becomes hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's something that would carry over to people who aren't reviewing games. Because, like, we wouldn't have necessarily felt that if we wouldn't have laughed about that kind of stuff as much if we weren't reviewing it. However, even prior to laughing my ass about it, reviewing it, I was looking forward to reviewing it because I like the game. The gameplay's fun. It has a decent curve for, like, okay, we've got this, we're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, no, we made it. I think we have it. Okay, we definitely have it. We're good. Or just like, nope, we definitely can't do this. So I guess we could play out the last 2, or we can just see that it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I played it at every possible player count. It's been a long time since I got to do that for a game. I liked it at all of them. I think it had a lot to offer. I thought maybe, on one board for the 4 or 5, that one of those 2 would feel better. And then on the other side for 2 and 3, one of those would feel better. I kind of feel like they all were good in different ways. I would like to play 2 again. I didn't get a chance to. I wanted to maybe do it with Megan or something, playing with the correct rule to see how tight 2 felt. But ultimately, like, if you play with more people, there's more people moving passengers. There's more passengers, but I don't know if the scale quite tips in the same way. There's, like, in a 5-player game, all the routes are available. In a 4-player game, there's some that they will become available, but they're not initially, and so they have different areas where they're tight. You get more cards, but you have more routes, or you have less routes, but you have less cards. And so they all actually felt really well balanced, I felt, across the entire spectrum. I see where 2 and 3, ideally you would want another board, but it's just easy to be like, hey, in 2 players, just don't do New York. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I would play it at pretty much any player count. I think it teaches quick once you have an understanding of what the game is doing. It's easy to teach. It's easy to play. The length is going to be entirely determined on how much you overthink those discussion maintenance phases. I feel like you can move through them quicker than sometimes people do. Like, I know when you and I played that 2-player one, which is probably the longest play of it for me, was a 2-player game. Mm-hmm. But there was so much where it was like, all right, I'm doing this. What are you doing? You're doing this. And it was like, okay, I'm doing, and then, like, you would answer and you'd be like, all right, Adrian, I'm doing these things. Wait, what are you doing? Just to make sure.
Well, it was because it was so hard.
And I think that a lot of that was because we had to play perfect.
Yes.
And so it took a little longer that way. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I haven't seen it drag nearly that bad at any other count. And I don't think it would have at a 2-player with everybody having 2 routes at the start. You could have covered so much more of the map. I really like it. I think it's a good game. I look forward to playing it some more. Once again, Tim has done a great job. So, Jeff, how about you? What did you think?
I agree. What's it? No. I really like it, and I really like it for this. I'd call it a medium light game for sure. It's got that great time amount to where this game really hits what you want it to do in that amount of time. I also like this game as an introduction into, like, heavy cooperative games where you're trying to talk to each other and try and come up with that plan. I think this would be fantastic. Pandemic is already kind of that easy level, but this is, another game that's not that. But even those kind of games can lead you to things like Spirit Island and that amount of insanity of communication between everyone and planning out everything. Overall, great game, top to bottom. Great all player counts that I've played it at. Great components. Great everything. It's all great.
Zach, how about you?
No. I am also a really big fan. I was hoping that Jeff wasn't going to mention Pandemic because I was going to be like, I think this would be a good game to replace Pandemic with.
100%. I will. I was probably never going to play Pandemic again. I will never play base Pandemic again.
Yeah,
as long as I have now.
And I say that mainly because it is stupid easy to teach.
Yeah,
it is. People can understand it, like the thematic connections. you get why you're doing those things.
You don't have that extra layer of player power on
Exactly,
top of
yes.
that to learn.
And it is fully cooperative, but you do have a randomness that's what I like in a good game, is that, like, I mean, you're still working together, but there's still there are things you can't plan for, so you can't alpha game it too much because you don't know. You're like, all right, there's a guy in Chicago. I don't know where he's going, and we won't know until we start. And then at that moment, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I would say my only problem with the game is that, like we were saying, it was the only time we lost the game was when we were playing wrong, and we were playing it a lot harder than it was. And even then, we barely lost. So I've enjoyed all the plays, but I've always, like, I would say on all the real plays, it got tense near the end, but we always won.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely be looking forward to an expansion or something that adds a little bit more difficulty. I've heard some people are like, just take some cards from morning or afternoon, a combination of them, and then put them into evening. And that would make it more difficult because evening is the hardest one.
Yeah.
So that's something to look into. But overall, pretty much just echoing what you guys said. It's great. I love the art on it. I think he has a great, like, his artist that works with him on all his games continue doing that, because I think they work great together.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point that I just want to touch on. With the difficulty scaling. Like, so there's some games, like, so Spirit Island for me is another game. I've barely ever lost Spirit Island. I think that becomes most of my plays have been with Megan, and we really sit there and think things through. And I don't know, like, our group of gamers is a good group of gamers.
No, yes.
And so I don't know. I'm curious how this would be for everyone else.
No, if you're curious to see if other people are having that same issue, or it's just
and even then for me, it's not because it gets tense enough. Like, I actually have to be like, I've always felt like we won because we played well, not because, like, oh, it's easy. Like, yes, it got tight. That meant we had to do things well, and we did, and we won, and so I was rewarded for that. Unlike Pandemic, where sometimes it doesn't matter what the fuck you do, you can just lose Pandemic no matter how well you play, because the way epidemics or something come out. And so I like that playing well it feels to me like playing well in this will usually give you a victory. Whereas, but you still feel challenged. It doesn't feel easy.
No, I know what you're saying, and I can
see where I can understand. Hold up.
It's like, for me, that it's like if always playing right means that we win, then it becomes sort of like a puzzle where you're just trying to solve it, and once it's solved, you're like, okay.
Yeah, but the puzzle for this one, because of the variability of the card, the puzzle changes.
Yeah, I think there's enough there that isn't making me feel that, but it's like, if because of the difficulty and the fact that we haven't lost yet, realistically, I would start to feel that way, but I have enjoyed myself enough to sort of stave that off for now. I don't know. I couldn't tell you in 10 more plays or something if I was just like, all right, well, we won again. All right, well, we won again. All right, well, I guess, you know what I'm saying for that?
Yeah,
so,
okay.
But that's how I play. Like, I am fine with some games where you just lose. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm fine with, like, I still love Pandemic Legacy, and we lose a lot.
Yes, yeah.
I'm fine with losing. Like, I'm fine with losing in Spirit Island and things like that. But this one, I'm also fine with not losing as long as the game is still a challenge. I want a challenge. Whether it's a challenge and I win, or it's a challenge and sometimes I lose, I don't care as long as there's a challenge. And I think this game, so far, it's always been a challenge.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see in the long term if I still feel that challenge, because, like I said, it was always, it's super tough, and then we made it. If I'm always feeling that, then it's gonna start to feel samey.
Fair enough.
So
cool. We're done. Those are the final thoughts for this game.
Availability wise, as far as I've been able to tell, it is still only available from Fowers Games.
He only sells it from himself. He doesn't sell third party usually.
I've just learned this.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So it's certainly on there.
Yeah.
Along with everything else.
How much is it?
$42.82.
Okay, and that's with shipping. Like, I think he technically does free shipping.
Yes.
So
yeah. So that's probably with shipping and everything else included in the price.
Which
That seems a little high.
I mean, that seems like
Burgle Bros is $46.82 on the website.
Yeah.
That's sort of all of his prices.
Yeah. But including shipping.
I think it's because it's basically only MSRP.
Yeah.
Yet it's like if it said MSRP was like $39.99, then some places would have it for like $30.
Yeah.
And shit,
Right.
So I think that's what you're sort of used to.
Yeah.
So it is a little high, but I think
with the shipping, and it's a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, I
would say it'd be, yeah.
I don't know if I'd drop 40 on it. To be honest, it's pretty light for my tastes overall. Like I've got Spirit Island. Like I'm not looking for a intro to cooperative. I've got Spirit Island.
Yeah, but I think it's also like, isn't Pandemic 40?
Probably.
Like
Oh
MSRP?
yeah, I've always felt Pandemic is way overpriced for what it is. That's why, I will now officially never play Pandemic. I would rather pay the 40 some for this than the 40 some for Pandemic. 100%. So
ended it on a positive.
Yes.
I still think it's a great game.
Yes.
100%. But yeah, so if you want to get it, go over to Bowers Games.
Bowers.games.
Bowers.games.
Yeah, at least all that money would be going towards him.
Yeah, and that is also true, and I'm happy to support Tim. He's a great guy.
Yes.
So
I'm looking forward to Sabotage greatly.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Right on. No listener feedback on this one. Our timing got a little thrown off since we're recording on a Sunday.
Busy on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, it was a hectic weekend.
I got to go see Beck tomorrow.
Yeah, that's why we're recording on a Sunday. Jeff has decided Beck is worth spending money on.
I decided that like months ago.
I know. It wasn't a shocking
He still
revelation.
judges you for that as
Oh,
well.
yeah,
That's fine. Adrian has plenty of wrong opinions too.
Look, if you can listen to Nickelback, he can listen to Beck.
Oh my God.
Well,
All right, let's wrap this episode up. There's no feedback, none of that stuff. We are all done. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If so, you know how to go get the game now. And yeah, be sure to tune in next week when we are back for our Wednesday Ramblin' Shenanigans. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so in so many different ways. There's an email.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
There are BGG threads like ones for this episode, where if you have thoughts on now boarding, you can go back to that thread, leave comments. We'll talk about them next week on the banter episode. That is Board Game Geek Guild number 2731. Go check that out. We are also active on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I'm Jeff_MHGG.
We are on Facebook and Instagram /MileHighGameGuys. And we have a website, milehighgameguys.com, that has links to things like our Patreon, where you can support the show, our Slack channel, where you can join other fans of the show in mocking us, including me when the Broncos lose, and I live message it on Slack instead of Twitter these days, or I just get really mad at Case Keenum because he looked really good for the Vikings last year and is already the pick leader in the goddamn NFL. So yeah, Slack channel is a lot of fun. Stay out of sports if you don't want to hear me rant about the Broncos. Not rave.
I know I have.
I have not raved about the Broncos in far too long. But yeah, plenty of ways to get in touch with us. And we love hearing from all of you, our fans. Keeps us going. So thank you all for that. Hope you've enjoyed the episode. As always, I have been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm passenger 57 Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.